Hey guys, cancer story, part 3. This is where it gets weird. So, grab yourself a coffee. We'll dive in. We left off where I said I was going to do my own treatment. Now, the reason that I really wanted to do that is I'm a firm believer that everything in the world is sales and marketing, no matter what it is, for the most part, okay? Now, do I believe that chemo and radiation treat cancer? Yes, I do believe that, okay? I'm not a conspiracy guy, but I will tell you this. If there's no cancer treatments and then something comes out that works, every smart business guy that has a lot of money is going to invest in that and promote it. And then next thing you know, that's what they're teaching in medical school for 50 years. So anything new that comes out within those 50 years, it would make those people lose money to invest in something new, because that's taking away money from something that's already done. Not saying that it's benefit of the doubt, not saying this is something that's done on purpose. It's just the way that the world works with medicine and business. So I figure that scenario, most likely chemo and radiation are not the best option at that time for me. So I was going to do my own treatment. So like I said, I had my left adrenal gland removed in 2006. Since then, I've been reading a lot and learning a lot about the endocrine system, about cellular metabolism, about how the body works and why it works, and things like that. So I started learning more about cancer. And I'd been learning a little bit about that as well since the first time. And I said, I'm going to put these together, I'm going to use my head, and I'm going to figure out what to do to get rid of this on my own. All right? Now, I recommend that everyone do this. You should always look up, especially if you ever get medicines from doctors, find out what those things are and what they do to you. I mean, you probably don't need most of them. Some of them you really do though, so be careful. Now, when you do your research, do not believe articles, do not believe stuff on social media, do not believe any of that garbage, because all that is to push some kind of agenda one way or another. I'm not a political person. I'm not a conspiracy guy. I'm just telling you, you have to find medical studies that are unbiased, and you're gonna have to dig for hours, weeks, months to find these studies. And it's just people saying, what if we do this? Or what happens if this and this and this, all right? Now, I decided that I firmly believe the studies that say that cancer functions and grows with, from glucose, sugar, and so I figured, all right, well, I want to keep my blood sugar as low as it can be while still being healthy, and keep my insulin levels constantly low. So that way, those cells have the least amount of opportunity to grow. And hopefully, it'll cut off their supply of food and they'll die. Cut off their supply of fuel. So what I did was, number one, I went back on a ketogenic diet. Now this is not now I'm talking about an actual ketogenic diet, not a lot of the fad ketogenic diets where, you eat bacon all day long and, I mean, you can do that, but it's not good, okay? So I'm talking about, I had fatty cuts of steak, I had avocados, extra virgin olive oil, I also had chicken too. Basically, it's 80% fat, 20% protein, trace carbs, okay? So the only form of carbohydrate I was having would be from broccoli, and that's mostly fiber, and then I also had fiber supplements. So I do that for a while, and now I've had experience doing ketogenic diets before. I usually get into ketosis in about 3 to 5 days. I feel great for 2 to 3 weeks, and then I feel horrible at about the 3 to 4 week mark forever. I've done it for a year straight before, figuring I would get back to feeling good like I did at the beginning. No. So I did that, and that was to kind of go hand in hand with the chemicals that I was taking. So I decided to go with a little bit of a holistic approach as well, figuring that it couldn't hurt. So I got some additional medicinal mushrooms, reishi and cordyceps, and I was taking those every night. And I'm telling you, I don't know. After a couple of days, I would take them, and they just made me feel real depressed. But I kept taking them. Also, green tea, things that will help your body in general. If they fight cancer, great, but at least they'll help keep you healthy, a little healthier. And then the main thing that I did, and I'm not going to tell you exactly what it was, because the legality of it is questionable. So we'll say I allegedly got this chemical, which may or may not be considered a toxin. Now, what it does is mitochondrial uncoupling, okay? So, to break it down so it's not super boring and scientific, it makes your body really inefficient at storing and using energy, okay? So, my diet is preventing the cancer cells from getting fuel, and this stuff is preventing not only them, but my body from using fuel the right way, or the most efficient way. So, I figure the combination of those, 1-2 punch, those cells are gonna die. That's what I'm gonna do. Kept a log of the dosages and everything, because dosages about twice as much as what I was taking for that, well, allegedly taking of that substance could kill you within about 24 hours. You go into a coma and you die. So basically, I did that. Did that for about a month and a half, and the ketogenic diet got to me just like it always did. I was so depressed. Every day I would wake up and I would just say, this isn't worth it. It's probably not even gonna work. What am I doing with what little life I have left? This is horrible, this is stupid, I'm such an idiot. So I stopped the ketogenic diet. And when I say I stopped it, don't think that I went out and started eating donuts every day. For the most part, it was basically just grilled chicken, broccoli, brown rice, basically like a bro bodybuilder type diet. Still avocados, that's good stuff. A lot of different vegetables, berries, blueberries, blackberries, raspberries. So that's what I was eating. Kept down with the other stuff, but I was still so exhausted. Imagine if you were, briskly walking up a flight of stairs all day. That's basically like the work your body's doing because it's so inefficient with using energy. So even if I was just sitting on this stool with that, I would just be so, out of breath just all day. And I have to go to work during all this. Now, my work knows what's going on. Unfortunately, it's not recognized as a form of treatment. So FMLA doesn't come into play, none of that stuff. So some of the days I was so tired I couldn't go in. My bosses at the time were like, we know what's going on, but we still got to put it in perspective, I almost lost my job because of it. Even though they knew what was going on, they're like, yeah, there's nothing we can do, sorry. For missing a couple days because of that. Anyway, I got through it, did it for 3 months. It was, like I said, it was horrible. It was actually worse than chemo. Chemo is pretty horrible, but the real horrible parts of chemo are, a couple days, and then you still don't feel good, but you feel better than I felt for those 3 months. So I went in and had my follow-up tests, and I was nervous, to say the least. I got a phone call. Oh no, I'm sorry, I called them to get the results. And I remember I was driving when they called me back, and they called back, and I was about to go into an Acme. I was in the parking lot at Acme, and she said, your results are clear. The lymph node that they were worried about is half the size it was, and the lesion in your lung is completely gone. And my first thought was, nobody mentioned a lesion in my lung. What? Because they didn't. And so I asked her about that. She was like, sometimes they don't mention it if they don't think it's important. Okay, well, it's important to me. But anyway, that was the best news, obviously. So it worked, right? So I was thrilled, obviously. I told a bunch of people. And when I went to the follow-up exam with the doctor, follow-up visit, which I want to say it was either a week or maybe 2 weeks after. I was real excited to tell him about what I did, you know, what we were doing, you know, how it all went down. And of course, he had called off that day. So we had a guy in there that I never met. The guy looked at my file. Okay, so you had some, what did you do, chemo or radiation? I said, neither. He said, why? I said, well, I didn't really believe that was the best option. He said, well, I think that was a bad idea. I said, are the tests clear? He said, yeah, they're clear, but we don't know if maybe you took an aspirin or something and it made the test come back as inconclusive. And I said, hold on a second. You're telling me that if I take aspirin, that messes up your CAT scans? Really? Those are that touchy? And no one's ever mentioned that before. And he was just like, oh, I don't know. He also said, asked me if I was, when I told him I did my own treatment, his response was it marijuana? It's like, no, it wasn't. It was not. That's real offensive to me because apparently since I have tattoos, all doctors assume that I am a pothead. Not that there's anything wrong with that. I got a lot of friends that smoke pot all the time. I got a lot of friends that are in states where, you know, you can just do whatever you want. That's great. Just not something that I've done, right? So I was real offended. I shouldn't say that. I don't want to be like the people in today's modern culture that get offended by everything. I was pissed off at that guy for being a dick. That's what it was. So that guy was a dick. Nonetheless, I still had to show him, you know, my stuff, because every time you go to the doctor, you got to take your pants off so they can look at your remaining testicle and make sure that it's good, even though the likelihood of it, you know, being in both is rare. So anyway, I left. It was good. And I still really wanted to talk to the other guy, but, you know, whatever, he wasn't there. I'm not going to make an appointment and pay him for another, just to have a conversation with him, tell him what I did. Okay? So I really wanted to write a book about it. And I wanted to explain exactly what I did, but I didn't, since I was so tired I couldn't log it all right. I just couldn't think at that time. All I knew was the basic outline. This is important for later. So I try to wrap it up here. So from there, I waited 6 months to get my next test, okay? By this time, we are in beginning of, let me think, 2016? Something like that. Beginning or middle of 2000, sometime in 2016. And I think it was like maybe April or May. And I get my other tests. I'm waiting for a call. And I get the call when I'm at work. And I get a voicemail. And it says, hey, this is Dr. So-and-so's assistant. He's very concerned with the results. He'd really like to see you. Please call us back to schedule an appointment. So I call them back, they don't answer. I get their voicemail. So I am freaking out at work, okay? I'm nervous every time I go back to get those tests, just, you never know. So I get a call back, I go and I take it. She says, hey, he's really concerned about the results. He needs you to come in. He needs you to come in, talk about what's going on. And I said, well, why? Tell me what's going on. She said, well, I mean, it's a very serious thing. He wants to make sure you're taking it serious. So I'm taking it serious. What's going on? Just tell me the test results right now. I want to know. She says, well, the tests are clear, but he really wants you to come in because he doesn't feel comfortable ordering more tests if he doesn't get to see you. And I said, this is about money? Okay. Then I won't be back. So that was the end of that. They freaked me out just because they wanted me to schedule an office visit so they could charge me a few $100s because they didn't want to tell me on the phone that the tests were clear. So at this point, so like I said, I believe it's April or May of 16, we're good. Everything is clear, tests are clear, I did my own treatment, it was fine, everything is good. We'll end it here, and we'll pick up with part 4 next time. So I'm gonna watch this back because I probably rambled on a little bit. I don't want it to be too confusing. And we'll see you guys next time. Enjoy the rest of your weekend.